Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Today is the third and final installment of the section about the delegations of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And to be honest, I could have done one more section, but the fact of the matter is that as you can see, these are all small stories put together, and each one might have one or two benefits. And then if I were to do another one, it would really just be a list of tribal names. And I realized that perhaps it's better that we just mention the most important, and that's what I've done the last two. And today as well, inshallah, we'll mention the more important delegations. But please be aware that the books of Seerah have listed collectively over 110 delegations by name. The bulk of them, we don't know anything other than this delegation came. That's it. And then the ones that are more interesting, I've given you some stories here and there. And today, inshallah, we'll finish up with another 6 or 7 delegations. And we'll begin with one of the more bizarre ones, and definitely a unique one in its own case, and that is the delegation from the tribe of Banu Hanifa. The delegation from the tribe of Banu Hanifa, and the leader of Banu Hanifa was Musaylama al-Kadhab. So no doubt this is one of the more bizarre and interesting delegations. Musaylama al-Kadhab, his name is actually Musaylama ibn Habib, and Musaylama was a relatively old man, maybe in his late 60s, maybe even early 70s. So he was a Christian, and his tribe was a Christian tribe, and he had in his younger years gone to Jerusalem to study Christianity. So he had learnt Latin, and he had taken on the customs of the Romans. So you can imagine that such a person, when he comes back to his people, how will he be viewed? So his people gave him a lot of respect, and he continued to rise in power more and more and more, until when Islam came, you can imagine him to be an elderly man who now has the respect of the entire region of the region of Yamama. And Yamama is up north central in Arabia, and as we had said, up north where the Christians typically were. And Musaylama ibn al-Kadhab, Musaylama ibn al-Habib, who's later called Musaylama al-Kadhab, his arrogance got the better of him. After being respected for so long in his tribe, he couldn't imagine now giving that up and becoming subservient to another person. And so when the delegation arrived, and remember the purpose of the delegates was to sometimes negotiate, not to embrace Islam, but to negotiate. And we mentioned already a few that had negotiated. So the Banu Hanifa did not plan to submit. And by the way, the Banu Hanifa were the largest and the worst of the Murtad tribes in the time of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. The Ahl al-Ridda, the groups that rejected Islam, the largest and the worst and the most problematic were the Banu Hanifa. And they, as we're going to mention today, actually had an interaction with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Musaylama, as he saw his tribe split amongst the lines of Islam, because remember Islam was spreading across Arabia, he felt more and more anger. And one of the noblemen of his tribe converted, and his sub-tribe, all of that converted. We talked about this nobleman. I'm not going to quiz you, I'm not going to ask you the name. I'm sure if I were to, then you would not remember immediately. But we discussed his qissa, his story in a lot of detail. That is Thumama ibn Athal, the chieftain from Najd, who was also from the Banu Hanifa. Remember, the one who was tied in the masjid for 3 days, and he was captured completely accidentally. He just happened to be going for Umrah. And when the Prophet asked him, what do you have? What is your option? What do you want to do? So he gave that eloquent tinge of arrogance, but also dignity in his response, that in taqtul dha dam. If you're going to kill, you're going to kill somebody whose blood is very weighty. وَإِن تَعْفُوا, that if you forgive, then you're going to forgive somebody who is Kareem. And if you want money, ask whatever you want, and you will ask the one who has plenty. So he said, I have 3 options. You want to kill me? You want to free me? You want to ransom me? Whatever you want, here I am. And then after the 3rd day, the Prophet said, let him go. And in those 3 days, he saw Islam, he saw the Salah, the Quran, so he embraced Islam. And then he went to Makkah, and he said that I will never allow the Quraysh wheat and other goods until the Prophet allows me. This is Thumama ibn Athal. Thumama ibn Athal is from the same tribe, Banu Hanifa. He was another nobleman. And therefore, the tribe of the Banu Hanifa, like all the other tribes, some of them are converting, some of them remain upon their religion. So Musaylama said to his people that if the Prophet ﷺ gives me power after his death, then I shall follow him. Otherwise I won't follow. This is my condition. If he allows me to be the next in charge, and he shares with me in prophethood, like Musa shared with his brother Harun, he has to also make me a prophet. Then I will become a follower of his, and we will embrace the faith. And the books of Sirah mention his followers brought him into the masjid, and they were shielding him with fancy cloths, meaning he's entering like a king basically. A procession in our times, you can imagine. They have all of these banners and everything. So already Musaylama, he is being treated with such reverence. We can imagine this got to his head over the course of his lifetime. And wallahi, this is one of the biggest problems of power, that once you taste it, really you get a little bit in your head, you literally think people owe you something, and you think you are all that. And this is really what got to Musaylama, that now that he was so venerated, he couldn't imagine giving that up. So his point was, only if you share with me what you have, and you claim I'm also a prophet, then we will share this matter with you. So you can see from the very start, even before he declared himself to be a prophet, that in his heart, he already had this in his mind. So he had the audacity, and he was the first of the false prophets. He was the first of the false prophets. And our Prophet ﷺ predicted in the famous hadith that after my death, you shall see 30 dajjalun kadhabun, 30 dajjals that are liars. And the worst of them will be Al-Masih al-Dajjal. Otherwise, before them there will be 30 other Dajjalun. The first of them was Musaylama. And he had the audacity right to the face of the Prophet ﷺ to say to him that if you make me your in charge after you, and you share with me in your prophethood, then I will follow you. And the Prophet ﷺ was amongst the Sahaba, and he had in his hand a branch from one of the tree, and you just have it in your hand, you just, whatever, it's just human nature to hold something. And so he picked up this branch, and he said that, wallahi, if you ask me for this stick, I wouldn't even give this to you. You saying you want to be the command after me, you want this stick which is for free, it's not worth anything, I would not give this to you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will deal with you and humiliate you. And I am certain that you are what Allah showed me, meaning the dream that Allah showed me. You are the fulfillment of the prophecy that Allah had warned me about. Ibn Abbas, many years later, he asked Abu Hurairah, what was that dream that the Prophet ﷺ referenced? Ibn Abbas at the time was barely 12 years old. Ibn Abbas, his knowledge came after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, that most of his knowledge came secondhand, even though he was alive, but he's not in the thick of things. So, as an older man, he asks Abu Hurairah, what was the dream the Prophet ﷺ referenced? So the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Hurairah said, I heard the Prophet ﷺ say that once when I was sleeping, this hadith is in Bukhari by the way, hadith is in Bukhari. Once when I was sleeping, I saw myself wearing 2 bracelets of gold. And of course it's haram to wear bracelets of gold, so there's something wrong with what is this. So the Prophet ﷺ is saying that, and I felt disturbed at this. I shouldn't be wearing this. I felt disturbed at this. So it was inspired to me in the dream, blow on these bracelets. So I blew on them, and they broke off and went away from me. So they departed from the Prophet ﷺ. So I interpreted them to be 2 false liars after me. So each bracelet represents a false liar, an irritation, a nuisance, each one pretending or claiming to be a decoration from me, but they are not. They're trying to be a prophet along with me, they are not. And the first of them will be the one who is from the tribe of Anas, and Anasi from Sana'a. And this is Talha ibn Ubaydullah al-Anasi, we'll maybe talk about him afterwards. So there was one who claimed Talha. And the second will be Musaylama from al-Yamama. So when al-Musaylama came, so the Prophet said, you are the one whom Allah warned me about. That you are the one that I saw in the dream. And his story is well known, that after he returned to his community, he wrote a letter to the Prophet ﷺ, And of course I am quoting the letter, and the one who quotes kufr is not kufr. So he said, from Musaylama Rasulullah ila Muhammad Rasulillah. Look at the arrogance of this man, that from Musaylama Rasulullah ila Muhammad Rasulillah, that Assalamu alayka, know that I have been placed in this matter alongside you. Now if he didn't give it, if the Prophet didn't give it, didn't matter. I'll place myself alongside you. That I have been placed in this matter alongside you, and the Quraysh have half of the matter, and I have the other half. But the Quraysh are a people that go beyond transgression, they go beyond the bounds. And the Prophet ﷺ, two of his messengers came to deliver the letter, and the Prophet ﷺ said to these two men, what do you say about Musaylama? So they said, we are upon what the letter says. We believe him to be Rasulullah. And so the Prophet ﷺ said, لَوْلَا أَنَّ الرُّسُلَ لَمْ تُقْتَلْ. Were it not for the fact that ambassadors and envoys are not harmed and killed, that I would have executed you. Because this is ridda, this is kufr. There's two types of kufr. There's the kufr that is al-kufr al-asli, or the regular kufr, and this is the kufr of the kafir. You're a non-Muslim, you're a kafir. Then there's the kufr of ridda and beyond the line, such as claiming to be a false prophet. This is a kufr that the Sharia will of course execute in its domain. And so the Prophet said, were it not for the fact that you are an envoy, an ambassador, and the rule is that ambassadors are not executed or killed or harmed, I would have had the two of you executed. And of course this shows us many things. Of them is that, yes, there is a protocol that is obeyed in the world. And this protocol transcends any religion. And that protocol is ambassadors. And to this day, I mean, what is diplomatic immunity? The UN, every country gives diplomatic immunity to all of the ambassadorial staff, the staff that works on behalf of another country. It is in the mutual benefit. And this shows us that there are laws that, yes, even though they don't emanate in the Sharia, but the Sharia will approve of them. And of these laws is diplomatic immunity. And this is exactly what the Prophet himself said. And Musaylama, to the best of my knowledge, he was the first human being ever, not only to declare himself to be a prophet, but to attempt to imitate the Quranic style. And that's a whole different topic